Hello, everyone. This was very just out of the blue. I didn't even promote this live show. I was just like, if you're here, you're here. If you're not, you're not. So,
And here we are.
Usually how it works with us.
true, true. Always very last minute, but it's okay. So, we're here to discuss, first of all, natural beauty. And then we're going to jump into hijab butch blues. And very excited to discuss this today. And today we actually have a special guest, Lisa, to the other side.
Happy to be here. It's an honor.
Yeah. Actually, it's the second month in a row that we have a guest, right?
Yes.
Because we had Rita last time. Yeah.
Wait, what was our book last month? I forgot it.
Young Mungo.
Okay, that makes sense. That's
Yeah,
why I
because
forgot it.
this is
That
our book from February. But it's okay. It's okay. Actually, I'm reading the March book right now, and hopefully I'll finish it maybe next week. So then we can plan the live show. Have you read it?
I just started it last night, so like,
Okay, great.
we should be
Perfect.
good for like the first week of March, and that's like back on track.
Yeah. So yeah, let's start discussing this book. I was just telling Lisa that it's a weird ass book.
Yes.
So, overall rating of the book. Go, Lisa.
I think I had to look because I forgot, but I gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
But honestly, I kind of was just like, here's a rating. I don't know how I feel. So
Yeah.
that's, willing to change that.
Yeah. And Casey?
So mine was a 3.5, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it, but like, yeah, I feel like a lot of it I was just kind of like, what the fuck? And I wish I wanted more, kind of.
Yeah, I get it. I think I gave it a 3.5 as well, but on Goodreads, I don't know if I rounded it up or down. I don't know if I gave it a 3 or a 4, but
Classic dilemma.
Yeah.
True. Sometimes a book is a 3.5, but it feels like more of a 4 than a 3.
Oh yeah.
So
I do the same thing. I round up or round down based off the vibes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
But
But
I kind of like
go ahead.
a story graph because I like using them both at the same time because like in one you can do both. You can give it an exact rating and then like be harsher if you want to or be like rude up,
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to do that, like manage Goodreads and Storygraph at the same time, but I would always forget about Storygraph. And then at some point I just gave up and I was just like, it's only Goodreads for me. It has like everything I need, but like I don't need to put the exact rating. I know in my head. And I feel it.
So true.
Right.
So now let's direct the question back at you.
Oh.
What did you rate it?
Me?
Yeah. Did you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I was
not paying
attention. What did you say?
It's a 3.5, but I don't know if I put like 4 or 3 stars on Goodreads. That's why we were talking about
all that. Yeah. I'm caught up now.
Hello.
Wife stealer.
Oh, damn. You gotta be careful here. Anyway, I think I like the themes of the book, but the way that it was done, it was just really weird. But I was expecting it to be a lot more horror than weird,
Yes. And I was, not only was I expecting that, I was hoping for it. I'm less of a, I just got a notification from Duolingo that you completed the March challenge.
Oh, I did, yes. I did it yesterday. Why is it saying?
They're trying to get me to come back. Anyway, I don't really love weirdness, but I like horror more, so I think that's why I personally struggled with it. I also feel like the pacing was really interesting, but I think half of the book kind of lost me. or lost like my interest a little bit.
Yeah. I feel like it's probably categorized as the horror because I think the main genre is horror, even on Goodreads and everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just because it's creepy. Like I felt kind of creeped out, but I didn't feel scared reading the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like really unsettling. And like you can always like you can sense that something weird's going on, but it wasn't like I wasn't scared. And I expected there to be more like there was like body horror stuff, but I was expecting more
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. I felt like there were only like two main scenes with body horror. One like more towards the end of the book and one in kind of the middle. So yeah, I was also expecting that a little bit more. I do like weird books because you were saying, Casey, that you don't really like weird books. I like weird books, but I just feel like I don't know. This was just really strange. Some details were very strange.
Yeah.
Like that massage chair that she goes in. Like, why was that there?
Why? Yeah. So like I
Just
read that part, I was just like, "And we're just moving on. All right."
Yeah.
Like
Well, first of all, I want one for myself. But at the same time, like, what's the point in the book, you know?
That is so funny.
Like I said what needed to be said.
so true. Speak your truth.
Also, someone is asking what book are we talking about when we're talking about this one, Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang, I'm guessing. Also, I think this is going to be turned into a movie, right?
Yeah,
That's
I think it's
gonna be
being adapted.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it has a lot of like visual elements that could be really interesting, but I think it has to be well done.
Yeah. Well, I feel like so much of it was like she was just like thinking things. Like there wasn't a lot necessarily happening.
That's 100% like one of the things I found like the biggest like miss with this story was like I found the main character to be so uninteresting, and I felt like she was just kind of like going through life trying to like not do the easiest thing, but like she didn't really have much of a personality to her, and like that was likely intentional by the author for like a multitude of reasons. But I was just if she had more personality, I feel like, or something to like give me something here to invest in, because I just felt like she was like very bleak and surface level, just like a lot of inner monologue but not like substance behind it.
Yeah.
But I did
think just like every time like anything would happen, like there was just no reaction to anything, which was like creepy in its own way, that she was just like, this is happening, and it's like that's not normal. Like, why aren't you reacting? But then it also, like you were saying, at the same time, like there wasn't really much to her character.
Yeah, like if that's the point of it, because I feel like so much happens in like American capitalism, like day to day working, that like people don't maybe just like blindly keep going forward with. So like I get the point, but I was just like, okay, we could take this further. Yeah.
Yeah, I do get it, and I also agree, but maybe it has something to do with like the trauma of what happened to her parents. Maybe she was kind of numb overall. I don't know. Maybe that was the point, or maybe not. Maybe she's just very not fleshed out. But speaking of characters, maybe this was just me, but I felt like all of the characters at Holistic, what's it called? I felt like they were just like one character in my head.
Yeah.
It was just like Ellen, I think that was the girl that was like outside of Holistic, and then all of the other people were just one person to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a lot of names, a lot of girl names, and they were just like all acting the same pretty much. And yeah, I felt like in terms of characters, this book was a little bit lacking, maybe.
And I feel like that could also be intentional too, because like the point of Holistic is like they're all trying to like be someone they're not, but all be like carbon copies of each other,
Mm-hmm.
or like the ideal, like they're all trying to like fit the form of like natural beauty that's accepted. So like individuality is like not the point, and they're trying to like get away from that. But it just didn't read as interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like it didn't read as substance. It just felt flat.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even like with they just announced like literary awards for like queer books on Twitter today, and oh my god, both Natural Beauty and Hijab Butch Blues won. So I was like, wow, look at the 20-something book club and the nonfiction baddies. You're welcome.
Yeah.
But I was like, Natural Beauty won for like queer fiction, and I was like, damn, I forgot that they had this whole sapphic plotline, and that she like had like this really sapphic homoerotic crush on someone, and I was like, that didn't stick. That would have stuck in my mind.
Yeah,
that's true. I also didn't remember it until you just said it now. It was very like they didn't move the relationship that further into the book. It was just like very surface level, also in terms of like plot.
Yeah.
But yeah, very forgettable. When you were talking about that, I was like, this book is queer, and then I
yeah.
Also, like, not just because it's kind of forgettable, but like there are better queer books, like fiction. If it was like queer horror, maybe this could like win. But like with fiction, was it from like 2023 or?
I think I took a picture. It was.
Like, there are so many options. Why this one? Is just what I'm thinking.
It was. Oh yeah. It was bisexual fiction. 2024 bisexual fiction. And I was like, dang, I really like. I didn't think she talked about identity or anything like that. So I was like, but I guess it works.
Like, you're not wrong, but also are you right?
Yeah. Also, I just noticed that like the little lines on the cover are like piercing her skin. I just noticed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that just I would read and go, yep, okay. Like there were some disturbing things, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I also like I don't read horror really ever. So like to me, I was like, oh, this is weird and confusing and unsettling. But also like, am I supposed to be like I didn't know how I was supposed to feel.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
I really like the discussion of natural beauty though. And like how you have to sell yourself in a lot of ways to like fit the standard of it. And especially
and you have to like keep up with it.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
And I thought like kind of that twist of finding out that like all of the girls that she works with, who she thought were all just like random white women, were actually like Asian women who like that. I think this book was like the ideas were there and they were strong, but the execution wasn't fully like fleshed out. But I loved that idea. I also thought like a lot of the writing was really fierce and like just sparked so many good discussions, especially talking about her parents and like how they sacrificed so much to come to the US. And they're not accepted in that kind of idea of how like they still have to struggle and work even when they're in the US. So I thought it had a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also agree. I think it was just really the way that the story is told and the plot points that the author put in the book that are just weird choices, and maybe I would have done differently.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like this is, at least for me, it was a page turner. I kept like, flipping the pages, also because the chapters are pretty short and they always end up in like a situation that you're like, what is gonna happen next? So I just kept reading. So I wasn't like bored reading the book.
Oh yeah, I definitely like I wanted to know like what was going on. So it kept me reading.
Yeah, it was interesting, intriguing, and surprising. It's just like wasn't a perfect read, but
Yeah.
I'd recommend it. Like,
Yeah.
weird. Definitely gonna take your brain to places you haven't been, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
If we can jump to the end, do you guys remember like that whole scene when I think she doesn't take the medicine so that she can be conscious and awake during the procedure, and she finds out like what is actually happening. That was fucking wild.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Like I knew like when that was happening and then she'd come out of it and she didn't remember what was going on. I was like, okay, clearly something going on there. Like I want to know. But then I found out and I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
And so I brought out this book reminded me of Lakewood, and I brought it out because I felt like you guys you might need the cover. I actually gave this book 5 stars, and it's like a similar idea about like a girl who's like a Black girl, I think in Michigan or something, and she's like supporting her mom. She's like in college, just out of college, and she takes like this job opportunity where she gets paid to be like a research experiment for some scientists for a long time, but it pays really well, and then she like has to sign a whole bunch of NDAs and stuff. And I just feel like a lot of the same concepts were there. I just liked this one a lot more. But have you guys read this? I'm curious.
No,
but I've heard about it for a while. So
yeah, I think like if you liked this, you'll like this, maybe, you know.
There you go.
And is it more like horror-y than this one, than Natural Beauty?
More sci-fi dystopia, like some horror elements, but it's more like a sociological experiment, I feel like, and less of like a body horror type thing. It's more like
okay. Yeah.
But I think the similarities of like the themes are like how far will you go for money, you know, to provide for the people you love, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like how much are desperate people willing to do?
Yeah.
So I think they're both like 2 really interesting explorations of that idea.
Yeah. I just remember that part where her parents die. I think it's closer to the end as well.
Yeah.
And the doctors find out that everything that she was giving them from holistic was made from like human remains and all of that. And that was just like so fucked up. I don't know. I don't know if it was also trying to play into the themes of like animal cruelty and all of that, because there was this whole thing in kind of like the basement, right? Was it the basement a holistic?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the monkeys, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like so much happened in this book that was like, I don't know.
Yeah, there were like monkeys there, and it was really weird, that part.
Yeah.
This company was wild.
But I never really understood what they were doing to the monkeys, you know? Like, were they like testing on them the things? Is it that? Or
yeah, I kind of got that vibe of like some sort of experiment.
yeah, maybe. But that was I didn't even remember it was monkeys. I just remember it was like animals, some type of animal. But like that was also a detail that I was just like, why is this here? If you're like, if by the end of the book she didn't even like explore that further, it was just like, why?
Yeah, there were a lot of things I feel like it was like, this is what's happening. Here's something like a piece of the puzzle, but like we're not gonna talk about that anymore, and then it just doesn't get acknowledged the rest of the book. Like, okay, sure.
You just need to know that this is happening in the background.
Yeah, just know. That's all. That's it.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see the movie of this. I feel like if it's done well, it can be an interesting.
I was gonna say, I feel like it could be done really well, but like we were saying, like there is so much like inner dialogue that I'm curious to see how it's done. But I feel like the like horror-y stuff, like the body horror stuff, could be really creepy.
Yeah, true.
I kind of. You said it's turning into a movie?
I think it's a movie, or is it a TV show?
I kind of feel like it might like translate better as a TV show.
Let me
But
see.
Well, especially because, like, there's so many times like you'd get to the end of a chapter and you'd be like, huh?
Yeah.
So let's see.
Did you guys have any quotes that you liked?
I do have some. Because the writing, like you were saying, it's pretty nice writing. Go ahead.
I have one from page 27.
27. Okay.
Yes. Looking back, it seems like I had instinctively known that the most effective place to prune myself was at the roots.
Yeah.
That is heartbreaking. And I like how it talks a lot about identity. How like, and that's kind of like our main issue with this character. She has no identity, and it's because she's been so good at that, pruning herself. So I like.
Yeah, that's why she was so willing to change her whole identity and
bingo
facial everything.
Yeah.
I had one, but I can't find it right now. Also, I was looking, and it's going to be turned into a TV show.
Yeah, I was just.
The prayers have been answered.
Do you know who? Or I mean, I guess like they'll find out who will buy it afterwards, but I don't know. Like if it's Prime, Netflix. Did it say?
Not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it says yet.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I have faith. Any of them, I feel like could do a really good job with this. They've all done great things.
It's so true. They all bring something to the table,
right?
Yeah, not sure, but it's also by an executive producer of Yellow Jackets, and that show is on HBO, right?
OT, that sounds really promising.
Yeah,
I know.
I know.
So the next quote I had was on page 38. And she wrote, in the classical music field, it's still more permissible for women to be mediocre than it is for them to be fat. And I was like, clock it. Go girl.
So true.
Yeah. Not just in classical music, unfortunately.
Right.
But yeah.
That's something we haven't really talked a lot about is like the element of her being a classical musician and like being so dedicated to piano. Yeah. And also like the way her parents died. It wasn't like that their first and like only time going out to one of her concerts.
Yeah.
If that's not the epitome of the American dream right there, mama. I don't know what is.
No, but it was just so tragic because like it was what connected her to her parents, and then it also connected to her parents being in the state that they were, and she stopped playing because of that, and it was so sad. Like yeah. so sad.
Well, and the like when she goes to visit her parents and she like brings the different like pills and stuff from the company, and she's like, I want them to start taking these. It's like, no, let's not do that. Like, as soon as I was like, well, okay, it's okay. I was just like, didn't like that.
I only have a quote on 176, so I'm going from the end. Um, and it is that fine line between beauty and ugliness, ripeness and rot is what keeps an audience listening with held breath. I really like that
Woof.
Woof.
um, and also like the whole page 219, because it's also talking about her parents. And I have the quotes: "Gone are my mother's small black eyes, as dark as the watermelon seeds we loved to eat together. My father's slightly squashed nose." And then it goes on. And then also underlined a little bit further: "The only thing that had given me any measure of comfort when they had their accident was the idea of inheritance, their DNA unfolding quietly in my body, a gesture here, a habitual tick there. A part of me was always waiting for them. For my temples to silver like my mother's, stars shooting through midnight hair, for my body to gather in the swells of soft skin. I clutched as a child. I hope I would laugh one day and it would be an echo of my father's joy."
Yeah. I think when I read that, I was like, okay, time to cry a little bit. All right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do this anymore. But that whole page is just like her reflecting on what she inherited from her parents, and like the fact that she ruined it by doing all these things to her face and her body and everything. And oh, it's
I
so sad.
know.
And I think this is also after they die. I don't know when
Mhm.
they die, but I think it's also after that.
Yeah.
And she's just like reflecting on the fact that not only have they passed, but she has basically killed all of the things that connected her to them.
Yeah.
So
I know. It's
it's
devastating.
hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else, Casey?
Um, yeah, I have one more quote, but I was just processing.
That's fair.
Because I think that's just this really interesting way of showing like intimacy with your family members, and like the way like your DNA and your body, like how that can manifest and resemble each other. And then she like, not intentionally, because like she didn't really know what the results were going to be, but she had some sort of control and stripping herself of like her only familial inheritance.
Yeah.
And that's the game capitalism pays.
So true.
Yeah.
The well, I have like two more quotes. And
Go.
the one quote that I wanted to read was just because I thought this was like the most disgusting line.
Oh, good.
This
Okay.
is like on par in my mind with the line from "To build your house around my body, to build your home around my body," with about the tampon corking someone.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's on par with like the body horror. It's not that bad, but it's "My feet are soft with disuse, like fresh dinner rolls." I
Fresh
don't know.
what?
What a visual.
Dinner rolls.
What?
Dinner rolls. It sounds weird
What
in English.
what page is that?
238.
What is she talking about?
"My feet are soft with disuse, like fresh dinner rolls." And I was like, no, I love bread. Like,
Oh,
don't do
ruined
that.
bread for me.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was just imagining like loaves of bread at the end of someone's legs and like trying to walk on that.
no.
Oh god.
I know there was also one part, I don't remember what the actual quote was, but she was like, I think she was in bed and she could like hear her like eyelashes growing or something like
Oh, I
that. And I was
hated that.
like, I hate everything about that. But yeah, like, no, thank you.
The
Oh
last
god.
line I had was about like natural beauty and how where was it? natural beauty doesn't exist here, it's created. Why not ethnicity? Because they were talking about, like, I guess how you can change ethnicities too, or how they want to do that. And I like think that's like a line that has so many meanings, or like it can be really true in our world too. That like natural beauty does exist, but like when you talk about kind of like Western media, is what we're glorifying and like romanticizing and idolizing, is that actually natural beauty, or
right?
Yeah.
the effects of capitalism. So I was like,
most
wow.
of it is not.
Right.
Yeah.
Are these just mediocre people with a lot of money?
Most times.
Yeah. So I was like,
yes. Wow. Yeah. I feel like we tried. I see it all the time. Like people comparing like Kim Kardashian's face with when she was younger and saying, "Oh, she hasn't changed. She looks the same. She's still beautiful." And it's like, she has done so many things to her face. Like she is 40 something, 42, 43. And she looks like 20 something.
Yeah.
So like that is not natural. That is
they not only like they just have the money and like the resources to be able to do that.
Exactly.
And like the stuff that they're doing with their body, because I'm not against like I'm all supportive of like if you want to have like plastic surgery, do it. But it's like very clear that they're like changing their bodies depending on like what's popular with the trends at the time.
Right.
And there's reasons for that as a society we should unpack. But then recently, after like reading this book, my coworker was talking about how she bought like Khloe Kardashian gummies, like wellness gummies. Yeah. And it gave her a rash. And I was like, this is a little bit too natural beauty right now.
True.
Well, that's like what was kind of like unsettling about this was like, if this company was real, like this would happen. Like there's no way, like this is not that. Obviously there's some things it's like, well, that probably wouldn't happen, but it's not far off. Like there would be people who would buy into this company and do that, like 100%.
Like how do we know it's not happening already?
Right. Like you don't know what you're putting in your body, on your face. Like you don't know. It's so scary.
Yeah. Thanks, Ling Ling Hong.
I know this made me want to like get rid of all of the skincare that I own. I was like, I don't want to do anything. Like,
just water, baby.
Yeah,
just water. Just water. All natural, and that's natural beauty.
And scene.
Yeah. I think that could work, honestly. We're onto something.
That was the takeaway.
True. Water. That's it.
Yeah.
Critical reading, kids.
No, but it actually annoys me how they flip-flop their bodies just to like fit the trends, because like now Kylie is so skinny. And I think she took out probably her butt and probably a little bit of her boobs, and she just looks so skinny. And she posted a TikTok with a friend. I think the friend posted the TikTok with Kylie, and people were just like commenting like, oh my god, she looks so skinny, what happened? Like what is happening? And the friend just commented, oh, she's back to her pre-baby body and like weight. And I was just like,
I don't think so.
We know fully well she didn't look like that. There's photos of evidence. So
yeah, right. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, who are they trying to fool when they've been photographed since like birth? Like,
exactly.
That family has put them in front of the cameras since they came out of the womb. Like you said, Lisa.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna notice.
Right.
We know you can't drastically change your body overnight. Like,
but then also change it and say, oh, that's what it was like before, when it's like,
yeah.
We can fact check.
Not the time to try and get something past the internet, you know? Like you're gonna be found out like that.
The internet is forever.
Yeah.
And I also don't understand why they have to be so hush hush about the surgery and things that they've done to their bodies. Like, why? Like, a lot of people do it, not just them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. It's weird, like how they're always denying it. Like, I remember Kylie for so many years denied that she had lip fillers, and it was so obvious that she had lip fillers, and it was just like, why?
Yeah.
I feel like people would have so much like more respect for her to just be like, yes, I did. Like, that's it. Like, instead of trying to lie about it.
Yeah, I really don't get it. And I also don't understand how they do so many surgeries, not just them, but like people in general. Like, having a plastic surgery is probably really stressful. I don't know how they keep on doing it. Like, I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
After my most recent rewatch of Grey's Anatomy, I just think that like going any kind of surgery is like not something that should be done lightly. And it's like, I feel like surgery should be like a last resort because it's so extreme to the body.
Yeah.
It's so I'm like, how are you just like willy-nilly? You're just like, yeah, I'm willing to do this. Like, God, I could never do it. I don't want to feel that pain.
Yeah, and so many things could go wrong. Like,
yeah. But that's just my bias from Grey's Anatomy and the godlike work that they're doing on that show.
So true.
I just saw yesterday a poster for the 20th season, and I was just like, how is this still going?
Last night.
And I was like looking at the people in the poster, and I remembered like 4 characters from like the main cast in the earlier seasons. So I was like,
the most sickening part of it all is I'm loving this new season. Like, it's not good, but I'm loving, I'm eating it up. I'm like, it's just entertaining. It's like,
it is.
Like, I'm invested in these characters now. You have me in your claws and you're dragging it out, and I'm here for every minute of it. And actually on my walk last night with my dad, he said he'd be okay to watch Grey's Anatomy. So I'm going to be doing, once we finish our current show, which we have like 5 more seasons of, we're going to do Grey's Anatomy, and I'm going to ruin his life.
And then you're going to watch it for the rest of your lives because there's so many seasons.
We're never going to
get caught up.
Yeah.
But wait, is he going to rewatch everything from the beginning?
Yeah, he's never seen it. He has no ideas. He has no idea.
The people
I almost feel bad doing that to him.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's good for him.
Yeah.
You just have to tell him, like, don't get attached to anyone.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
I still remember vividly, like, I think it's probably like 2nd or 3rd season when I think his name is George has an accident and he's like unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And then he does something like he does
007.
007, that's it. Oh my god. I was just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh my god. And when that, what was she called? The blonde?
Lexi?
Is it Lexi? I don't know.
The airplane. Are you talking about the airplane?
No, I'm not going to talk about the airplane. I think that's when I stopped watching Grey's Anatomy. I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Are you going to talk about the leg with Arizona?
No, it's not Lexi. It's like earlier seasons, and she, like, her boyfriend dies. Izzy, that's it.
And Denny.
And she keeps seeing him everywhere, and he's a ghost.
Yeah, they really jumped the shark with that one like 3 seasons in.
Isn't that's Jeffrey Dean Morgan, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the only thing I know from Grey's Anatomy.
As you should.
As you should. And they're gonna find a way to bring him back.
What?
I don't think all bets are off.
Honestly, that's fair.
They can find a way.
If I was a viewer, I'd want Jeffrey Dean Morgan back too. So,
Give me Jeffrey Dean Morgan and his wife on
that show.
And
his wife, yes. Yes. Oh my god. I keep seeing like TikToks of like their, I guess, transformation, them just like aging, and they look like so much better now. I don't know, the gray hair just does something.
Yeah. they're both just they were both hot when they were young, but
True.
they're just aging. Like that's how you want to age.
Exactly.
Yeah, you want to get better as you age.
Exactly.
I can actually relate this back to hijab butch blues because our King Jeffrey Dean Morgan was a part of this classic show called Supernatural, which I realized, despite my like 12 years of Catholic school, Supernatural is the reason, the sole responsibility of why I know so many Christian stories from the Bible. And they talk about them a lot in here, but just like the Islamic version. And I was like, wow, I'm like really ashamed of myself that I know these stories, but only because of the characters from Supernatural.
Listen, it's educational.
It's educational. It's religious. It's philosophical. It takes you places. But I
have Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah.
What else do you want?
What else could you want? You're right. So that's how we got here.
Yeah. Okay. Let's speak on this, Lisa. If you want to, what? Sorry.
Can I see your cover? Oh wait, Lisa. I'm so sorry. I forgot that you didn't read this.
I did not. I'm a flop. I thought about it and then I didn't.
No, wait, you have it?
No.
Oh.
But I thought I could and then I didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, you should. I loved it.
I also did.
Noted. Very good.
Yeah. But you can leave if you want.
I was gonna say I think I am coming.
But
it's actually perfect timing. I do have to shoot out. So
thank you for coming. Thank you for joining.
Great work.
Thanks for joining.
Everyone drink water and that's it. That's what we want.
Message. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Yeah, my cover looks like this. It's a lot different.
Cute.
But I like both.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Okay.
But yeah, I also what you were saying, I was recognizing, not from Supernatural, but I was recognizing a lot of the stories, and I was just, I don't know, I'm just really not very cultured in terms of like religion overall. And I was just like, how are these stories the same as the Christian ones? You know? Like, how is this all from the same like book? I don't know. I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, so I think it's all from like the Old Testament. But I think the main difference is some of the names.
Okay. Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And then like I think like the part of like Judaism that separates it from Christianity is that in Christianity you have the Old Testament and the New Testament. But in Judaism, I think they don't believe in the New Testament.
Okay.
So that's like Jesus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think I don't know. I think in Islam, it might be both testaments. I don't know.
I also don't.
But beyond that, I had always heard that it's like kind of like the same characters.
Mm-hmm.
But I have never really like, this is like the most religious of a nonfiction book I've read. So this was such like a fascinating insight.
Yeah.
And I love like, I don't know why I like needed to read this to like, I guess see permission of like still interpreting like the Bible or like religious texts. And like coming up with your own interpretations that differ from like what's being taught.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, your mind is so powerful reading this. And I thought that was just like such a beautiful way of like reclaiming that power.
Yeah.
In like that relationship.
Yeah. I think my favorite part of the book was really the way that it was structured with like a story, Islamic story, and then applied to her life and her interpretation of it. I just think it was everything and more. And also she explained the stories really like easy to understand. Yeah. And I really like this book. Also, like, did I miss the part where she said that she wasn't going to, like, I only understood that this author is like a pseudonym. Is that how you say it?
Oh,
Pseudonym?
pseudonym? Yeah.
I didn't know that, like, that she doesn't want to be known, and it makes sense from the story because, like, her family still doesn't know she's queer. And so I was just like, did she mention that in the book and I just didn't pay attention?
No, I don't think so. I
I
think
don't think
it
so,
was very
right?
subtle. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I was just like, did I miss this information? Because I really thought that this was all like the names were real and all of that, but this is probably like different names for everything. And
Yeah. But and that stood out to me too because like we obviously have read a lot of nonfiction together and a lot of memoirs together, and
yes,
that is something you don't see all the time.
yeah,
But I like, not that I have anything to write a memoir about, but I always think about privacy.
yeah,
And I think if I were to write a book about my life, I would feel very inclined to like to almost do the same thing so that
yeah.
the readers don't suddenly know all these things about the real people and real things in my life,
Hmm.
and can't just come and find me, because that like kind of in this world that doesn't work. But obviously she had a very different set of reasons for it.
Hmm.
But I thought that just like was really so unique.
Yeah, yeah,
Memoirs.
yeah. Same. I think this book was unique in every aspect, just
Yeah.
also like structurally, and even like we've read a lot of queer memoirs, but I feel like this one is just so different. And also we've read also a lot of queer memoirs that are about Muslim people, because we also read
I think this is our second.
our second. Okay,
I
so
think
maybe our second. We read one last year. That's what I remember.
we
But
have
that
always
one,
been here.
we have always been here,
Yeah.
exactly. And that one, even though it was not just one person, because it was like a collection of voices, right?
No, that was just by one author.
Then I don't remember anymore. But I just remember that I didn't really like that book because I felt
Oh,
like it. No, not that I hated it, but it was just like a 4 star. It was just like, okay.
yeah.
But this one I really loved because it really touched on the duality of being like queer and also a practicing Muslim and being involved in a religion that doesn't really like you and support you in any way. And yeah, I felt like the balance between those two things was really well done in this book. It talked about a lot about her like self-discovery as a queer person and as a lesbian. I think she identifies as a lesbian, right?
Hmm.
But it also, because of the way that the book was structured and with the stories, it just also touched a lot on religion and her trying to find her place in religion and trying to find her, I guess, readings of
Yeah.
religion as a queer person. Um, and yeah, I thought that was really well done. I just love this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. And
I
also the writing was amazing as well.
Writing was amazing. I love the idea of like reclaiming your space in your religion and like
Yeah,
in your like holy text.
yeah,
Um, Especially since like there are so many similarities between like the Quran and uh, the Bible. I loved like her going through the stories and like having like making these making the interpretations and being like, this is how like we're told to interpret it or how it's taught, but this is why like this is how I think about it, or like this is what has unsettled me, or like this is a character that I feel like has been under thought about or something along those lines, and like forcibly taking back that space, but also applying those themes to your own life. And
yeah,
like I just thought it was such a I it's so like I feel like you don't read, or it's not as common for like young people to be super religious.
yeah.
So
True.
Yeah, I liked seeing like someone who was like I think it's clear that she's older than us, but like she was like at some point in her 20s like exploring this and having a relationship with her religion and sharing it. Um
Yeah.
and like it doesn't have to be something that's obsolete. Like it doesn't only apply to like 1200 AD or something. Um so I don't know. I thought it was just like I feel like a lot of times when we read or like when we think of religion, we think of like fanatics. Not
Yeah.
even in like the nuances of how that word can be manipulated now, but just like like just like people who are like one certain way. And this book just like broke all of that.
Yeah, true. And that's also why I found this book so interesting is that she is really religious. And I felt like in her journey, she hit a lot of like dead ends with religion and her identity. And she was always kind of like looking for her space and trying to see if it could work. And she was just like so, I guess, strong to
Yeah,
kind of like try to overcome that and try to find her own space in that religion. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of queer Muslim people tend to, I guess, um, go away from their religion because it doesn't support them in any way. But yeah, she was just like really strong to like push through and be like, no, I do have a
yeah,
place in this somehow. And
yeah. Like the
yeah,
text doesn't explicitly, or like the way you've been interpreting these stories doesn't explicitly support us, but like if there is room for interpretation, there is room for support here. And I think like that idea of like this can actually be a lot more welcoming, like something that
yeah,
you've studied and has been taught a certain way, you can take that back.
yeah, yeah,
That felt like that reclamation was strong and like powerful and felt throughout the whole book.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like a lot of what we feel about religion and why people, Muslim people, also Christian people, just like any religious person that is queer and that relationship that religion doesn't accept them, I feel like the people eventually leave that religion because of other people's interpretations of that
Hmm.
religion and the people around them and how they dictate their own relationship with religion to other people, you know?
Yeah, and force that on them.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, she was just like so, I don't know, so strong willed to be like, okay, that is your interpretation, and you think I should marry a man and live my life the way that you do, but I'm not going to because X, Y, and Z, and because I can live my own queer life and identity within this religion as well. Um, so yeah, it kind of like made me sad at the end that I couldn't fully know this person because
Yeah,
she's using a pseudonym and doesn't want to be known because she's just like so damn like powerful. Like
yeah.
this woman
Um,
is going places.
yeah, I follow her on Twitter now.
Oh
Um,
really?
and yeah, so if she releases any new books or stuff, I will let you know.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, like this was nominated for an award for like the Queer Award. So she's getting the recognition she deserves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I also thought, um, like this book, she wrote a lot about like loving and like family and how to be like your authentic self with your family, and how like if she is her authentic self with her family, she could be like disowned essentially,
Mhm.
and how she's making that choice not to tell them to preserve her relationship with them.
Yeah.
And um I thought that that was just like such a profound way of loving your family, because like it's so sad, but it is like, again, I think like it highlights like a stronger, formidable like strength in her, that like she is willing to like keep a part of herself hidden or like repressed so that she will keep receiving and being able to give love to her family.
Yeah.
And love should not be conditional, right? But it's clearly a choice that a lot of people have to go through and make. And I just thought like I don't know, she just put it so clearly, like that her family cannot find out about this.
Yeah. And when she brought Matilda, no, what is her girlfriend's name? I don't remember anymore. But when she brought her girlfriend to Eid, was it Eid? I don't know. It was a celebration of some kind, or was it during Ramadan? No,
her name's Liv.
Liv. I don't know.
Yeah, it was for Eid.
Yeah, it was for Eid, exactly. And yeah, she brought Liv over, and her whole family loves her. And when I was reading that chapter, first I was just like, "Oh, like this is so heartwarming." But at the same time, I was kind of expecting her to, after all of that, to maybe tell her parents. But I do understand the hesitation there to not tell your parents, because it can really change things. Like they can accept you, but the relationship maybe will never be the same again. And that like 50-50 like chance of them not accepting you and not being totally okay with it, but like, or like completely shunning you out of the family, is just, it's a lot to deal with and to handle. So yeah, I obviously always understand when people don't want to cross that line. It's obviously sad, but if someone is at peace with the fact that their family doesn't know them like fully, and if it works for them, honestly, yeah, who am I to say?
Yeah, especially because like she can have the best of both worlds since they live so like geographically different. Like she can have this like kind of two separate parts of her life and control it to some degree. Like if that's the healthiest way for you to live your life, like go on, sister. But I was just like, wow, like that decision was like definitely weighed on her and throughout the whole story. I was also gonna say, because I read recently, I think it's called like The Future is Disabled. I think it's a nonfiction like book, and it's like a series of essays, and it talks a lot about like community support and like mutual aid. And I guess like having that in my mind and like looking back on this book, like she is so involved in her community and so like set on, you know, going to different like places of worship and finding other queer Muslims or just finding other Muslims and connecting with them. And I was like, wow, that's so inspiring. And going, especially, it might be different because like she's not in her native country, so like he needs to find a community. Like it's not just, she didn't grow up with one there. But I just thought that was like just an interesting intersection, because a lot of like the future is disabled. Like a lot of that intersection is like queer disabled people. So I was like, wow, here's an example of like a person who is involved in her community and like doing a lot of the work to like sustain that. So I thought that was a cool takeaway.
Yeah, and also like just her finding a community overall, and also like queer friends even outside of religion. It was also like really beautiful to see. She was really like putting herself out there in all fronts, like religion, queer life, everything. Also dating. There's a whole chapter where she's like going on bad dates.
Oh,
yeah. Oh god, that was painful. But like I liked how it was like bad date number 1, bad date number 2, and then with Liv it was like good date number 1. I can't. I ship them.
I also love like how respectful Liv is of like honoring
Yeah.
Lamia, I think is her name. Like we're like honoring her boundaries and like what she's willing to share.
Yeah.
So it was a beautiful, like I was just happy that she was able to like receive love in the way that she needs it.
Yeah.
Which is like not something you often see in queer relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this book was really like, it's obviously out of protection, like we've already discussed, but this book was really like queer happiness and love overall. Like, obviously, she struggled a lot, like finding people and finding herself in religion and the community and everything, but overall, it was just like so joyous to see her like find all of these parts of herself, and even with her family, and figuring out what worked and what didn't. And yeah, it was really interesting. And also, I have something tabbed here that it's when she's out with like a group of her queer friends, and she's talking about like being the only um person like wearing a hijabi, and like being Muslim, like being the only Muslim in the room basically.
Mm-hmm.
And how she had to, like, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but it's like she doesn't want to seem too religious because people might like think she's not fun, and she's always trying to kind of like show a part of herself, but also not be too much of the stereotypical Muslim person, like practicing religion and all that. And it's just like, it's kind of sad that you have to like sometimes suppress some things, but I guess it's a part of life. And even not being Muslim and not being um, religious in any way, you kind of have to do that around certain people. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
you always like show different parts of yourself to different groups of people and to other people. So, but it was an interesting concept that I hadn't thought about. Like, I guess just kind of like putting on different. Well, I have thought about it, but not in this context specifically. Like putting on different fronts for different people in different groups, and yeah, and she says like the not too religious hijabi. It's on page 140, by the way. The hijabi who can rock with the alternative crowd, who won't judge you, who will be accepting and tolerant, the good Muslim. I'm in full on silent raw mode now, and like those bad Muslims, the religious ones, the ones who are inconvenient in their practices, the ones you have to pause for as they break their fast, the ones you have to step out to pray. And it's just like, I don't know, it's a weird dichotomy of like trying to be the good Muslim to, I guess, to appeal to the white crowd, basically.
Yeah.
Because if you're too much, people are gonna be like weirded out by you. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Kind of along that same idea of like having different masks with different people. Like I highlighted one part where she's like coming out to her friend,
Mm-hmm.
and this is like on page 80 and 81, and then it goes into 82. And I think because of like um she was friends with someone, I forget, I can't really figure out like who it was, but she had told them that she was gay, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he texted her and he says, I think you'd make a beautiful trans
Oh,
man. Have you ever thought about transitioning? Just because I
yeah.
guess a lot of like her queerness presents as like gender masculine.
Mm-hmm.
And I highlighted the question feels so patronizing, as if I've never thought about gender and how I choose to present myself, how I dress, how I stand, how I crop my hair short, and what this means. As if I've never thought about what it would be like to live as a man instead. The relief that would come from passing, with not having to face the everyday violence and humiliations of living in my body. As if I've never thought about how I don't want that, how every cell in my body recoils at that thought of being a man, and yet how harrowing it is that the only way I can get out of my bed and make it through the day is by wearing masculinity on my body. As if I've never held dear my feminist rage, never thought about how I feel so politically aligned with womanhood, and yet hate inhabiting it. Hate it when my body is read as such, as if the only way to be trans is to transition to a binary gender, as if I can't exist as I have been, in some space in between or beyond, using she or they pronouns and seething when people call me a woman and laughing when tell me I should transition. I was speechless after that because how the fuck do you say that to someone? Have you thought about that's just such a weird thing to say.
It's so weird.
But I obviously her writing is just some of the best and so personal. But it's how when you're with someone and they can just ask these really quick and silly questions that almost take a piece of you with them, or cut to such a vulnerable place, and then you have to keep that mask up, or suddenly you put that mask down because you thought you could trust them, and it has to go right back up again because they proved they couldn't handle it, or they weren't worth it, or they weren't who you think you are, and having to go through that so many times and test it out with so many people to see who you can trust, the trust issues and the defense mechanisms that I could see coming up as just have it, because how is anyone else proved differently to you? It's the body remembers.
Yeah, true. And gender is such a personal thing that it's why would someone even ask this? It's even if she later down the line transition and all of that, and if that person didn't ask that question ever, it would be her own self-discovery. It doesn't have to be dictated by what someone thinks of you. It's such a personal thing. I just really don't understand how someone could say this with a blank stare and just
through a text.
Yeah, through a text.
Thought about changing your identity completely and how you perceive the world and how you're perceived.
Anyway, this was not a great take. I also, go ahead.
Sorry, it's kind of related. She says on page 110 that even after all of this, me saying the truth out loud is not enough to prove who I am to a world that doesn't believe me.
Yeah.
It's even she came out as gay and her friend was still are you sure? Have you thought about transit? All these alternates, or constantly having to prove yourself, or put on a different mask or wear a different mask for different people. Kind of along that line. I wanted to share that line too.
Yeah. I was trying to find, I think it's here. It's on page 71 and 72, where she's in kind of a group meeting with other Muslims in her community. And they're talking about if Allah is a singular God, or if it's plural, or if they could refer to Allah as they, and Lamia is Lamia? Is that how you say it?
I was saying Lamia, but Lamia? I don't know how to pronounce it truly.
I have no idea. But she's kind of defending that it makes sense that it's a day, and they're no. That really infuriated me because it's just it's an entity almost. It's not a person. Why does it have to be he, she, they? He, she, not they, but he, she. It just I don't know. It really infuriated me this whole discussion, because it's just you can interpret it however you want to, but there should be no pronouns. It's just Allah, and that's it. And I guess if you want to give it a pronoun, it makes more sense if it's they pronoun because it's like all encompassing. But like,
yeah, because it's like if we're just assuming that God uses he, him pronouns,
yeah,
does God also reinforce like the gender binary? Does God
basically,
also, is God also like we're gonna have to ask a lot more questions
yeah,
that reveal the way the influences that are influencing us to perceive
yeah,
God this way, you know?
yeah. Like in Christianity, it's fully accepted that God is a man, and it's just like, why?
Yeah.
Patriarchy.
Yeah, like when was that our first assumption? How did we get there? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I really don't understand.
yeah.
Um,
And she also talks a lot about like her relationship with Allah and how like Allah made her this way and
mhm.
like how her queerness is like good and holy because she was made by Allah and like Allah is also queer. And I love that too because like I feel like religion is not often queer
Yeah.
in the way we usually have seen it being interpreted.
Mhm.
Um, so I like that kind of idea of like just because like that I think therefore I am that just because I exist means that like
Yeah, if he created me this way, why not him also
yeah
be like that? Like,
yeah like we can just stop assuming that was the mistake.
yeah,
Like the queerness is not the mistake here, you know.
yeah,
Your prejudice is the mistake. Yeah.
yeah.
So one of a 5 out of 5 for me. Did we talk about ratings?
Oh, we didn't. But honestly, like, I give it a 5 star, but like memoirs is always that thing, that tricky thing where it's
Right.
like, should I give it a rating? Should I not? But like, I really love this book, so it's a 5 in my
5 stars to support the author, 10 stars
Yeah.
in my heart.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Honestly, I really, really like this book. Wasn't expecting to like it so much. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Just going into it, I knew nothing about the book. I just knew it was a memoir about like being Muslim and queer. But it really exceeded my expectations in a really good way. So,
Yeah. I think I pre-ordered it and I've been like putting it off for a long time.
really,
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm glad to have so happy to have read it because that is one of the best books I've read this year so far.
same here. We were onto something picking this.
Yeah, and I have to say, if we're gonna segue to next month's picks, I'm only 2 chapters into this, but holy, I'm already loving it.
Really? I'm on
Yeah.
chapter 1, so I still have no thoughts.
Okay. I'm only 2 chapters in, but I highlighted a quote from each chapter so far.
Oh.
So I think this is gonna be a really good pick.
I know nothing about that book. I'm
Okay.
going in blind. But honestly, I go blind into all of our books, I think.
Yeah.
Most of them I don't know plot, genre, nothing. Just vibes.
Just vibes always. That's how we do in this book club.
But yeah, next month we're going to be reading. Can you hold it up? Because I don't have my copy here with me. The Town of Babylon. And yeah, that's it because we're only reading our nonfiction Baddies book club pick in April.
And is
No.
that We Could Have Been Friends?
Yes, it is. It is. It is. Oh, my cover is completely different. I was
Yeah,
just like, I don't recognize that book.
don't.
But yeah, it is that one. It's so short. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, T. What the?
Yeah, but that one is for March and April, so we'll discuss it in April. And the Town of Babylon was technically for March, but we're gonna discuss it probably in like a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we're on a good trend with
Yeah.
books this year.
Yeah, true. Our picks are being pretty good, and let's keep up with the live shows.
We're doing good. High five.
Yeah. Woo! But yeah, Thank you for joining us on this discussion, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Bye.